It had been a long day for Jesus. It began with some preaching, and then calling of Simon and Andrew and James and John to follow him to be his disciples. And from there they went to the synagogue where he spoke with authority. And an unclean spirit recognized Jesus and challenged him. And so Jesus cast it out. Finally, he was to go to Simon and Andrew's home to rest. Well, he got there, and at once he was told about Simon's mother-in-law, who had a fever. She couldn't just simply take 2 aspirin and call him in the morning. You see, back then, a fever might be a minor virus or infection, but it could also mean that you were on your deathbed. So Jesus touches this woman, which according to Jewish law made him unclean. But she is healed. In fact, she is healed to the point that she perks right on up and starts serving a meal. And word of this gets out to the neighbors, and the neighbors' neighbors, and before long, Jesus is a popular guy. All these people are coming in droves, flocking to him. And he heals the sick, and he drives out demons all night long. We don't know if the people listened to him. We don't know if they heard his message, but they were touched by him. Finally, Jesus escapes, the way we all need to do after a long day followed by a longer night. He prays. He has quiet until these 4 newbie disciples hunt him down. It reminds me of that point in the evening, some of you might be able to relate to this, when I have tucked the girls in bed, turned off their lights, closed their doors, sat down to watch a show I've been waiting to watch all day. And before the first commercial, Mommy! Can't you just hear the disciples? Rabbi! I'm sure they meant well. They were just caught up in it all. And they were getting used to their new role. There are all these people who were asking for Jesus, looking for their teacher. So they figured it must be their job to track him down and bring him back. Well, Jesus explains that they're going to move on now. He says, let us go on to the neighboring towns so that I can proclaim the message there, because that is what I have come to do. That may have been news for these disciples who weren't sure what to think of this new divine healer. But Jesus was so much more. Jesus came to bring the good news that God is in our midst, that we are loved unconditionally, and there is grace. Jesus' message, because of it, we need not merely exist, but we can experience transformative, life-changing joy. And not everyone knew it yet. And so Jesus is on the move. Well, here, I wonder if we who sometimes frequent buildings of worship Do we know it yet? Do we know that not everybody has heard the message? Not everybody knows Jesus' story. There was a day and age where we could build a Lutheran church, and every Lutheran within a 30-mile radius would just come out of the woodwork and join up, because that's what you did. But times have changed, and we don't always have so many ready-made Lutherans yet. Not everybody has heard the story. Now we live in a time and place where in the U.S., 1/5 of all adults and 1/3 of adults 30 and under have no religious affiliation. In England, I believe it was this past Christmas time, a survey was taken at a mall of children that found that 1 in 5 thought that Jesus Christ was maybe a soccer player, and nearly half of 5 to 12-year-olds believed that December 25th was Santa's birthday. And why shouldn't they? Why should they think any differently? Who has told them? Martin Luther, who, by the way, in the U.S., only 46% identify him as being the guy who kicked off the Reformation. Martin Luther wrote the Small Catechism for parents to teach in their homes to their children. But that rarely happens anymore. Families are so busy with work and school, sports and clubs. Instead of Sunday being a day for worship and rest, it has become the day to catch up on everything we haven't gotten done yet. And what people know of the church is so convoluted by what they see in the media. There's these loud fundamentalists claiming to know who God hates, and TV evangelists preaching the theology of glory, that if you just send in your check, God will reward you and make you successful. Well, who has time for that? What positive difference can that make in one's life? Well, we are here today because we believe that knowing Jesus Christ does make a difference in our life. We believe that in the theology of the cross, that Jesus has already come to us first. We have heard God's message of love, and just as Paul wrote in his letter to the Corinthians, we too are obligated to share it. Because it makes a difference when we know that we are loved just as we are. It makes a difference when we know that we are saved by grace and not any works that we can do. It makes a difference when, well, you know it. You've experienced it. How does your faith make a difference in your life? We did this a few weeks ago, and for people who are new, I don't do this every week, don't get scared. But a few weeks ago, I asked us to get in groups of 2 and 3 and to recommend something to one another. Today, I'd like to ask you to get in groups of 2 and 3 and share what difference your faith has made in your life. Was it a moment of delight or a moment of despair when you knew that God was there? Was there hope? Was there redemption? Was there renewal? Take a moment. Find a partner or two. Do you all need another minute? Raise your hand if you need more time. Okay. It takes practice learning to talk about our faith. It isn't always easy to find the words for what may be at the core of our being. But the good news does make a difference. And for those of us who have been gifted with faith, it's not ours to hide or hoard. This is God's story. This is our story to share. Jesus Christ brought us the good news and calls on us to take it to the world so that the world may know the difference. Amen.